Breaking and Rapping Podcast. Today is March 14th, 2024. I'm Chris Cooper here with Alex. Flizo's out sick. Last week we learned that people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. So, are you ready for the rap? Or you missed out on last week in a way. Did you have any thoughts on what was happening as you were locked in your glass box? For those who didn't know, Alex's mic was broken last week.
Yeah, I was talking to Ben about last week's podcast, and he had a reasonable suggestion that was that wrecking could be just going on rants about complaining about things, whereas rapping is physically rapping. So we could be wrecking and rapping.
Yeah, wrecking and rapping.
I mean, I could find probably something. I could physically probably find something to complain about every week.
You could find something to complain about every week, once a week. Wow. Well, that would be a
Exactly.
challenge. Uh, yeah. I mean, I'm open for anything. I took some notes on how to explain what I mean by wrecking and rapping. I could share. Rap would be hip hop. Wrecking would be hippity hop. Rapping would be don't go to the store because I'm poor. Wrecking would be I'm too poor to go to the store. So does that all make sense?
What the heck is hippity hop?
All right, here comes my rap. Wiggity whack, Willy Wonka about to attack backpack rap. For Rizzy Blizzy Blizzo, how is he busy though? Too rich to really reach around, rickety railings, rather recant thee. Rickety rap, look at the cipher attack. Breaking and breaking the record of pizzas a second, I'm back and beheading, bedazzling my diamond ring, polish the rock, please get me on TikTok. A name to tame the beast, I don't need help, that's my Leo sign, just leave me to mine. So what are you gonna say? What was your vote, B?
I mean, it's all rap to me.
Another week of rap. You know, I like to
You
think
picked.
that if Flizzo was here, he would have given me a wreck. So I'm going
I don't
to
know.
at least award this week as a posthumous wreck to Chris. One thing I just had written in my notes was that the first time I wrote a rap was for this first episode. And because we were talking about skill progression and that the podcast is a thing or like a skill to work on, but also writing these raps is, well, just writing. So I have my blog, but that's not as focused writing. So the raps give me a focus. So I'm working to improve that, but that the podcast is work and it's an opportunity to do more work. I write rhymes, do the readings and recordings, believing that my work will matter. We must believe. I had another rap to perform for the Ben, and the reason I wanted to perform it for him was because it's from a Royce to 5'9" song featuring Eminem. Of course, I'm going to do the Eminem part, but I thought he might not have heard it because it's a feature and he would probably get the reference. So here comes the rap from Royce to 5'9's Butterflies. You're looking at till the psychopathic kill the caterpillar. Don't tell me when I'm supposed to rap until, especially when your favorite rapper ain't even half as ill. Savage still, track of the banana peel, attack the silverback gorilla. You're having a little trouble fathoming this is actually happening. Like Anderson Silver back when he snapped his shin in half and had it hanging by a flap of skin after he tried to plant it back on the mat again. So do you hear anything when I do those?
Yeah, I mean, Anderson Silver snapped his shin in half and it was hanging on by a flap.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
don't you don't like it?
it's
Or what it so it's all rap to you. So what's going on when you hear it?
it's just like fast words. I don't like. I'm not a music connoisseur.
Do you like It Pays Big Money by Garth Brooks? My older brother Tommy climbed way up in the sky.
I wouldn't consider that rap though.
We were just talking about music connoisseuring.
Oh yeah, I mean like Scarecrow was a solid album. I mean, I'm not like
What'd you
but
think?
I haven't like what
What'd you think about that character that he did? Was
I miss it. I
Oh, you
wish
liked
you
it?
could find its CD and you can't. Like I know there was at least one or two good songs on that CD when it originally came out. Chris Gaines. There it is.
Yeah, because
But
Chris
yes,
Angel was going through my head, but not that.
and that's why I was like,
Close.
it's not Chris Angel. But it was for a movie that was never made.
Yeah, yeah. But he did an SNL appearance as the character, so it was very
Yeah.
confusing as a child of like, who is this person? Because everyone keeps telling me it's Garth Brooks. The name doesn't say Garth Brooks. He doesn't look, sound.
I mean, I have that CD. but I also had an Ashley Parker Angel CD, which always makes me think of Max. You
I
were in
don't
the
know who
car for
that.
that, I think.
Well, I don't know who that person is.
So
Uh
there was a time we were. I assumed you were there. It might have been when you were away at Basic, but we were. Someone hit the ejection on the CD player in my car, and then like hit the CD, and I went, "Oh no,
oh,
my Ashley Parker Angel CD!"
smashed it.
And that was the thing that I just always remember is because I said his full name.
So you made sure to replace the CD because of that event.
We did have two copies of the CD after that,
Oh,
so I guess
so
I did.
so you should have said one of my Ashley Parker Angel CDs.
Yeah. I think he only made one CD, so I had two copies of the same CD.
Well, our hearts go out to him. Another thing I want to mention that this is a special brotherly episode because listeners wouldn't have been told yet that we're brothers. So that's a thing. I'm
What?
Alex. Well, I'm Chris. This is Alex. We share the same last name, so since I've said that, you know it. Um,
Like you've mentioned Ben being your brother, and we've never touched on
we might
the
have
fact
said
that we're
Ben is
related.
our brother, but I told somebody over the week that you were my brother, and he said, "Oh, they didn't know. They assumed
Dude, I
Flizzo was
all
not."
right. Well, all right, two things now. It was gonna be one, but now there's two. We're gonna go with Flizzo not being your brother. There was a college party we were at where we were talking to this girl, and she did not believe me and Ben were related. But Ben convinced her that her and were twins. And it
Twins.
was like that
Oh, I bet she was.
maybe they look alike, but not more alike than me and Ben.
Well, but I think they could certainly pick up on each other's actions, like where one lets off, the other picks up. I have a good photo of them both doing the was it Ernie, the strongest man in the world from
From Pete and Pete.
yeah, I think I have that name wrong though.
I think it's Arnie.
Arnie, that sounds about
A.
right. But yeah, that where
Yeah.
they're complementing each other in the way that they're posed together. I could see
Yeah.
that tricking a person to believe that they're related then.
The skin color kind of makes it hard to.
Yeah, but
Because I think they
20th
were
century
twins.
times have changed. Well, yeah, twins is the funny
Like it wasn't like they
part.
were brothers; they were twins. And she's like, "Oh yeah, right. I see this." It was like that was like 20 years ago. I'm still so angry about this lady. The other thing, because I was telling someone else about it. You originally said after the first episode, you were talking to somebody, and they said Alex doesn't sound like he has a beard.
Yeah, yeah.
And the person I was
That was
talking to,
Grizzy. I need to give a shout out to him this episode. But what about it?
no one knows what that means.
What does it sound like to have a beard? Probably more muffled. That would be my
Yeah, I was
guess.
like, how do you sound like you have a beard? Like I told someone about this, and they're like, what does it mean? I was like, I don't know. I could not comprehend it when I originally, and that's why I talk about it because it makes no sense. Like,
I
how do you
don't. Yeah, I
sound
don't
like you
even
have
know.
facial hair?
What do you sound like? Do you sound like you have a mohawk?
I mean,
Maybe. I
technically, I don't have a mohawk anymore because I cut the
oh.
back.
Wouldn't I would think just the top, or is it just a very high and tight? I suppose.
I mean, but I don't know actually. I mean, it might be a high, it might be a mohawk with. I don't know if the back part requires the hawk, but I
But
mean,
that
it
beard is not
definitely helps with
regulation.
the super thin top. So
Well, I'm going to give my shout out to Grizzy now. He's in the Discord. Hey, join the Discord if you're interested. But he was very upset about the shout out for Mobby last week, so I needed to make sure to give him a shout out. He's the guy with the wolf.
oh, okay.
Great guy. Probably the best friend you could ask for. He's made multiple trips out of his way for hours, driving for hours to bring furniture to another friend of ours without being asked. Yeah, no, very nice, but also might headbutt you in a parking lot if you cross him the wrong way. Won't even drop his chicken biscuit. Maybe he'll come on the show, share that story. Hopefully not, because those days are behind, and this is a PG show. Moving on to things that are PG rated, hopefully. The background I wanted to make sure to mention. It's titled, so this is a It's actually a stained glass in the real world. This is not stained glass that I had installed over the last week. This is just a sheet that is a print of the real world stained glass, which is titled Life of Saints Cyril and Methodist. That's METHOD Methodist at St. Victus Cathedral. So if you ever want to visit, we could do that. I want to visit a lot of the big, what are they, basilicas is what they call the big churches in Rome. Have you ever wikied a basilica or like looked at
No,
any of the images?
I
So
assumed all big churches were cathedrals.
I guess I don't know if cathedral refers to the architecture of those high ceilings, and it might even cathedral could be that medieval architecture with looks like this. But do you
Mhm.
remember BVM's architecture, the church?
Yeah. It
It's nice,
kind of,
very gothic, but one of my favorites. I think that was such a like pretty setup for where it was.
well, I mean that stained glass looks a lot like Holy Cross.
This one,
But we were
yeah, I could see
at
that.
uh, was it St. Francis? I don't know. Whatever's by the Springfield High School, that church for
Yeah, St.
confirmation,
Francis.
and it wasn't like cathedral. It was kind of like Swedish. It had like wood beams and everything, and like had like a Nordic
Nordic,
like
yeah.
look to it. It did not seem like the same that you would get from a normal church. Wasn't stone and marble and everything.
What did you think of that? Did you prefer that?
I thought it was weird. Like I was staring up at the ceiling. Like it had a lot of rafters and like the thick beams with the crossover piece. I was like, that's such a different look for a church.
Yeah, it didn't inspire you? I remember the first
Inspire me
time.
to what?
I don't know. What does this inspire you to do?
Nothing. Like
Pick a character and see where it takes you.
it takes you where I can only see the people at the top, and then I have no idea what's going on in the blue underneath.
So that means you're one of the characters at the top. Who is it? What are you doing?
I don't know, it looks like the Pope there with an apple, and then some dude who there might be a woman. I don't know if that's long hair or a cloak.
So the Pope feeding some woman an apple while a dude in a cloak watches. Yeah, well, maybe I'll have to bleep that out. Anyway, on to we were talking about progression last week, and one of the things I said is that you'll never be satisfied in doing that, and I wanted to frame that with the expression "perfect is the enemy of complete." To accept when something is complete and to move on to the next thing. Don't linger. To mourn a mischief that is past and gone is the next way to draw new mischief on. Have you ever heard that sentence before? It was from our
No.
first week of Shakespeare. I thought you were taking
Uh,
notes.
no, no, never.
Never? You've never taken notes? What was
Not in my
your.
adult life.
You graduated high school, right?
Yeah.
How?
I'm not that bad. I've done 4 years of college.
Oh, you have a degree?
You know, I've done four
Yeah,
years of
just done
college.
4 years. But how did you graduate then? Because you had to find a scam, right?
I
I
mean,
found a scam. I mean, and
high
I
school was
hardly even
just a
graduated.
scam.
What's that?
High school, they just pushed you through because they're like, whatever, don't worry about it.
I guess that's it. I mean, I was like thinking that you had to get a scam to get a C, but yeah, it's probably they just give you a D if you don't scam. And or
Yeah.
maybe maybe my scam didn't work and they just pushed me through.
I don't know. I think the educational system's flawed, but
Well, that's why we're doing what we're doing. A note I have later, and because it's based on how the segments we're going to create. What I've got Shakespeare, we're doing history, and the sections I want to add are science and math. Well, math before science, and the reason why is because that literature, history, math, and science are the four horsemen of the public school systems. So we need to take those horses, rein them in, teach them to be our own, and conquer the world, I think would be the next step.
I mean,
What do you think the
I'm just trying to
point
figure
of
out
public school systems is?
which
We were
subject
trying
would
to
be
figure.
which horse.
Do you know the horses? Would go in
Death,
line with our Bible reading
plague,
too.
pestilence, and is it famine? Or is famine
I think so.
pestilence?
Pestilence sounds more like bugs, but I think famine is
Yeah,
one.
so death,
And
plague, pestilence, and
some of them
famine, then I
carry
believe.
weapons as well. It's so this I believe though the popular four horsemen, I want to say they're in Revelations, but they also appear earlier on through the Bible. I'm trying to think of the other name. Ezekiel is coming to my mind, but I think it's another name that starts with an E. But I'm not prepared to talk about the four horsemen. What I'm going to talk about is Jude. And that's something we oh, that was all we covered. Jude is only about a page and a half long of a book in the Bible. And we talked about it for a couple hours in our Bible study. I have a couple. I want to say Jude 8 is, I'll read it now. Filthy dreamers despise dominion and speak evil of dignities. We are dignities, co-earthed with Jesus Christ. So in the quote was like, it was saying that the filthy dreamers, so the soiled ones, they despise dominion. So someone ruling over them or someone ruling over them. I touched the cross on my crown for listeners only. And they speak evil of dignities. So someone ruling over you would be a dignity. But what we talked about was that we are dignities, and probably my conjecture was that is because we co-earthed with Jesus. So that makes us special. And I think Mobby likes to say that we're all kings and priests, but that might come from the Bible as well. Yeah, anything on Jude 9 of what I just
And
said?
still, kings and priests doesn't really make sense because those aren't wide enough categories to.
What do you mean? Why not? What else
There's
do
so
we need?
much like that doesn't cover.
Well, give me examples.
Well, I mean, so when you originally touched the crown, I was thinking, oh, we could all sort of have uh court sort of entities, and I was like, I'd have to find a jester hat, and I was like, why don't I already own a jester hat? And then I was thinking about Ninja Turtles,
Mm-hmm.
but that's more of an
Did that
ADHD
not
sort of.
relate to the jester?
Well,
Oh, okay.
so it relates to the jester
Um,
hat on the fact that I would be a jester, and then I was like, well, that makes me Michelangelo. And then the other weekend we were all together, me, Flizzo, the Ben, and Josh, and we were looking at like there was a hoagie shop, and one of the hoagies was the Donatello, and
mm-hmm.
people were the Ben said Flizzo would be Donatello, and like
Okay.
everyone was saying what turtle they would be, and then I don't know if it was I think it was the Flizzo, looked at me, he's like, you'd be a Michelangelo, and like almost in every group, I'm always Michelangelo. It never changes. So it's like
So
that
you once
seems to
accused
be
me of being Michelangelo.
well,
So
yeah, but I mean, I guess that was also like 20 years ago.
no, that was like maybe 3. I want to say it was when I came home in
Are we talking
Christmas
about the shop
during the
masters?
pandemic. Yeah, that was maybe
I don't
2020,
think you were
2021.
Michelangelo.
What?
I'm pretty sure you were Raphael.
That's what I was saying. But
All
you
right.
said that you were Raphael and I was Michelangelo.
Yeah, but then that would have made Ben, I guess. So if Ben's Leonardo, Jerry's Donatello. Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, see, like maybe I don't want to admit it, and then, but like I'm just becoming more comfortable in my role of being Michelangelo.
Well, I think you can be both. I have a jester mask as well, but that's I think at the end of the day, you can still be a king and a jester. Um, well, I think JP likes to say that you have to be a fool in order to learn, and so that's the idea of the gesture is being a fool, and so only a fool can learn because if you think you already know the answer, you're saying you're not a fool, and in which case you're unwilling to learn.
All right. I mean, that's
All right. Well, I skipped ahead of my Shakespeare readings to get to that Bible reading. I do want to talk more about the gesture Michelangelo thing. Are you wearing your Green Lantern ring?
I mean, always.
Oh, okay. Do you know the Green Lantern Creed by heart?
So, I mean, I do, and then there's so many thoughts because you've mentioned this now 2 weeks in a row.
Well, it was on the
That
notes, but
yeah,
we never got to mention it on the show. it was just far enough down that it wasn't timely. But
So
now we're talking about like what I also want to talk about with gestures would be archetypes, and the king would be. There's a book I read is something like warrior, king, priest, and there's another one, but it's just like the archetypes of a man based that your whole life. And there's
I
a
mean,
Shakespeare monologue, "All the World's a Stage," but go.
that one gets weird because you don't really fit into like single categories. Because like
Which one?
if you were to try to like do the D&D thing, it's like there are multiple levels of me that would be a bard. Yes, I don't play a musical instrument or sing, but like the inspirational uh
That you're an
talking,
artist.
like yeah, like I project enough to inspire other people to do things, or but like it's like I've never originally considered myself a bard.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, no, the Green Lantern is in brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. That all those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light. In the universe of comic books, I don't know what like version we're at, but the one I stick to is that whatever you say does not matter. The whole reason the creed or oath exists is that is how long it takes you to charge your ring at the power battery. So there are
See,
other Green Lanterns in universe that have their own oath. It's not the same for every lantern because it's just supposed to be like it takes this cadence to fit this long, and that's how long
mm-hmm.
it takes you to charge your ring back up.
That sounds like the concept of a mantra. Mine while I was in Iraq was "This too shall pass." Just keep saying that.
Well,
This too
I
shall
mean,
pass.
I guess it can be a mantra as well, but yeah, I don't know if they've
Well,
retconned it though. That it's like, oh, it's just the thing they say. But like, there was a point in time in comic books it was designed to be a space holder for time,
mm-hmm. But
but
this is
but
so.
also
This
then
is
they created all the other spectrums, and
what I'm
they
getting
all
at
have
is
their own.
wanting to make these connections between these art and real life. So it's like mantras and what's going on with the ring. I mean, also the word I do want to dissect the words of the Green Lantern's creed. But so you don't have you not thought of these things as like connecting art and real life? How the Green Lantern's creed can be useful to you in real life? Why do you wear the ring then?
I've literally worn this for 18 years, every day.
Okay.
I mean, it's like my seventh ring at this point because after a while they
As
get
my
beaten up and
friend Teddy said about their sunglasses, was that it felt like wearing armor. Do you feel like the ring gives you power?
I mean, I think the originalness is it gives me I don't want to say personality, but that might be like it gives you a thing. It's like that's the thing. I guess most of my
Power?
but like the whole existence of like through high school where all I wore was red shirts.
Uh huh.
Like it was a thing. It's like that's my thing.
I
And
could
it's
think
just
of
weird
that
when you talk
as
to someone you went to high school with that doesn't know that.
I could think of those things as like an anchor to where like you have this safety spot and then you branch off from there if you need to. Oh, my dog's showing up. He had
Yeah,
broken
it's like
into the room. So my dog's in the room. You venture away from your safe spot and if you need to, you can always go back to it. But
I
without having that safe spot to begin with, then you're not going to risk new dangers.
mean that's
How's that
fair, but
sound?
I also just don't risk new dangers because
What do you mean?
I
You're an
don't know.
artist. That's what you're doing, coming up with creative things that have not been thought or said yet.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far, but like, I guess that does definitely lead into the whole cosplay sort of thing.
That you do cosplay, you mean?
Well, so like every escape room that we've done, we've cosplayed the escape rooms. Like you've dressed up for the theme of the escape room.
Now, do you guys act as though you are
You
people
know,
stuck in this
just
situation?
I mean, I guess
Like,
what is
oh,
acting?
help! The walls are
I
closing.
like
We only
then
have
no.
60 minutes. Open the box! Open the box! Like that.
I don't think anyone Jerry Seinfeld's it. So
Well, Why don't they make the whole escape room out of the box?
You're now just going for the black box Seinfeld joke of an airplane to.
I,
Uh,
yeah, I don't know if Seinfeld is the most famous for the that joke, or if he's ever even said anything like that
I don't
joke.
think he's
But
ever
he's my
actually made. I think
connection.
people make that joke about Seinfeld making that joke.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, that's it's. I can see it. So I mean,
Well, moving on to here. Let's shoot a bunch of Shakespeare into your ears. This is a short one. So I was telling we were talking about Othello, and I promised our sister that I would have to watch the movie.
about
You,
basketball. Yeah.
yeah. Othello is a similar story. So what's been happening was, so I told you that Othello was going to be with his girl, and Iago did not like that, so he got Cassio to cause trouble. And now the plot is Iago is trying to convince Othello that Cassio is Mr. Steal Your Girl, thus causing more trouble in his life. But the reading I have from Othello Act 2, Scene 3, Cassio had just recently gotten drunk and stabbed somebody with his sword. And so Cassio is angry at wine. So he says, O thou invisible spirit of wine, if thou hast no name to be known by, let us call thee the devil. Does that make sense on first reading to you?
I mean, why? How does this person not have a name? But was wine? You mean wine is in the beverage?
Yeah.
Well,
So so he
Cassio's
got
not a
drunk,
name for a person. There could be a person called Wine in Othello.
I guess. That's true. The
Like,
girl's name is Desdemona. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a tough one. But yeah, he's saying like wine ruined my life. If we call you nothing else, we call you the devil. All right. All right. So I've got a longer reading now since that was such a short one, but I just liked the I don't know, it's shortened to the point, that other one. This is Othello speaking in Act 3, Scene 3, and I believe he's speaking of Iago, but we'll see. He says, "This fellow's of exceeding honestly, and knows all qualities with a learned spirit in human dealings. If I do prove haggard, though that her jesses were my dear heartstrings, I'd whistle her off and let her down the wind to prey at fortune. Happily, for I am black and have not those soft parts of conversation that chambers have, or for I am declined into the vow of years, yet that's not so much. She's gone. I'm abused, and my relief must be to loathe her. O curse of marriage, that we can call these delicate creatures ours, and not their appetites. I had rather be a toad and live upon the vapor of a dungeon than keep a corner in the thing I love for others' uses. Yet 'tis the plague of great ones. Prerogatived are they less than the base. 'Tis destiny unshunnable like death. Even then, this forked plague is fated to us when we do quicken. So he starts off like, this fellow is exceeding honesty. He's talking about Iago, but he's being tricked by him. And then he says, though her jesses were my dear heartstrings. Now he's talking about his girl, Desdemona. And he's saying that, what jesses? Those are, I guess, some strings that you attach to a hawk, so you keep it nearby. And so the idea is that the heartstrings were attached to his heart. And maybe, for all I know, that could be the first time heartstring is ever used as a phrase in English language. And then he starts getting into, so she's gone, I am abused, and my relief must be to loathe her. So he's getting into this idea that Cassio is now with his girl, and so he hates her now, and like that we can call these creatures ours. The that the I don't know, the idea that you can own a person is not true. And he says, I'd rather be a toad living off vapors than keep a corner in the thing I love for others' uses. So I'd rather be a toad in a dungeon, which is bad, than to live with a girl who is being used by someone else, is what he is saying, which I think people can understand that feeling, but is a very creative way to present oneself
A
at the
lot
end.
of going around the block to cross the street.
That would be a good way to describe Shakespeare.
And it's like it's unnecessary just to like add all this fluff.
But that's what I'm saying, that it's not unnecessary because it's art and it's very sharp. That's his that's what he's
It's not
doing.
sharp. It's so dull because there's so much of it. Sharp would cut
What
right to the point.
would be like fill them with the venom and eliminate them. Other words, eliminate them.
Yeah,
Is that sharp?
would that be venom or would that be poison? That'd be venom. Okay.
Well, the other gotcha on that is fill them with the venom and eliminate them. Lemonade them. Other words, I minute made them. Lemonade, minute made. So that's
I mean,
sharp. Oh, what did you you
exactly.
you
But it's
heard that
to a
before I
point.
said
It's
it?
like a 1-to-1. It's not
Yeah,
like Shakespeare where it's just like I'm gonna pour a
and
bucket of words out there for no reason at all.
yeah, but see, that's very creative. A bucket of words. Um, but a thing I want to cover is that it's easy for us to say that now when we're 400 years down the road, we have absorbed this language that people have been saying it around. We learned Shakespeare in school, whether you remember it or not. It still was going through your head at a time where you were developing. So we can't disregard the past as like, oh, it was pointless because we're so much more effective now, that if we didn't have that, we wouldn't get to where we are now, and if we throw it away, we might lose what we have now.
There's no saying that that past wasn't constructed for that purpose. Like people love to give meaning to things because that's what they are told exists and why it's there. It's like it's not accepting that things are abstract and don't have deeper meaning. It's like, oh well, this has to be deep. It's like no, it could just be rambling, but because we are told that it means something and that it's important and then everyone else values it, it gains value because people give value to it.
Yeah,
And so it's like it could all
price is
just be
king.
made up cool, like,
Yeah,
but
well,
there's
and
no
this
way to
kind of
tell
goes
at this point.
back to what we were saying about Prince at our sister's wedding, was the, like, how do you know that it's good? And I'd say like you turn on the music and you feel if it's good. And I think that you can feel that Shakespeare is good if you're not having to struggle with the difference of language, because like when it hits its points, I mean, when I do the monologue that I actually have memorized, then I can actually put energy into certain spots. And I think there's an I mean, one thing, I had a teacher tell me that there's no throwaway line. So even if we had to slow down on Shakespeare to where I was just saying line by line, this is why this line's impressive, this is why this line's impressive, there's an depth that we can study for the rest of our lives. And what I said, in the meantime, we'll be improving our own language. So what?
You made my point there.
Okay.
Someone else said there's no throwaway lines. It's like, why? That's your perspective on it.
Well, because it's Shakespeare. He created our language.
That's my point though, because it's this thing. It's this thing. It's like, but like,
Well, I said because he created our language.
but
That's
he,
what puts.
but that's what you were told. There's no way to verify half of it. Like, yes, there's been
Well,
verifications of certain parts and whatnot, but like as a whole, you can't say some of it wasn't just made up for the sake of being like, oh well, we might as well credit this or might as well say this is where it came from.
yeah, and
But
there's
that
always
is
this
what
debate
language
of like,
is.
did Shakespeare write Shakespeare?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but I think going back to having that anchor is you need to say that this thing is safe in order for me to branch out. If otherwise you say nothing is safe, nothing is sacred, and I will live in fear my whole life because I have no safe haven to turn to in the rain.
Well, so I get that, but I guess there's the other level of I don't want to say question authority, but to to not just accept everything at face value. There are so many people in the world that believe things because everyone else said them enough that they're like, oh, well, that must be true. And that's the problem because not enough people just go, no, I know that's wrong, but you said it's right, so I have to take your word for it. Like,
Yeah, I
and
think
I guess,
that's
like, I mean, that's to be
definitely.
part of having my anchors to know who I am, so I have no problem questioning this other stuff.
I think that's why it's good to develop this like archetype personality, like you said, to know who I am. And that, well, when Flizzo and I were talking about like personal development or like improving your life, that you need to start on yourself, knowing who you are is probably the best place to start in anything.
I mean,
And
that's
you're a
there's a
king
lot
and a
of people that
priest.
don't know who they are. I do not feel I would fall into either of those categories.
Well, give it time.
No, what's not, I have spent many a years to figure out who I am, and like
Oh, who are you? Well, we're past half an
I
hour.
am.
Can you tell us who you are in like 30 seconds?
So one of the things that I say, well, there's two things I say, but one of the ones I say about me is I'm a Tigger, and no one gets it because the wonderful thing about Tiggers is I'm the only one. Like I
Mm-hmm.
know who I am, and I'm me. I'm the only me there is, and that's who I'm gonna be. And the other thing I say, and I mean, I guess I say it to myself, is there's this long lost cause that I still believe in called myself, implying that like no matter what, I still believe in me, and it doesn't matter what the outside perspective is because it's like I know who I am, and I'm gonna stay true to myself, even if no one else is. Because at the end of it, what does it matter? And I mean, I guess I have that perspective from life and things like that. That it's like, if you don't like me the way I am, then you're not meant to be in my life, and you can shove off. Like it didn't work. Peace out. Anyone who accepts me for the way I am when they first meet me means that they're willing to accept me for who I am.
Yeah, but I think there is like, yes, that's half of it. And I want to say with Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, that they're left brain, right brain thinkers. So it's like that might be the left brain, or probably the right brain, the creative side. I don't know which is which. And then
No.
the other side of the brain would be that there has to be some shared experience and community, because you don't want to be alone your whole life. So you do have to find somebody that shares rules with you, and you do share rules with, like, you're not a serial murder.
But
um,
I mean, like, I guess, but I feel like there's
or you take out your trash, you separate your recycling. All right, we've gone on too long. We gotta
we're gonna have to
wrap.
extend the show length, especially if you're trying to have categories that you want to hit every week. Because otherwise, it's just going to be hitting those four categories, and that's the show.
Yeah, but it'll be educational and it'll
It's
make us all
the
better.
show. Why isn't it just you talking at the screen and then moving on?
Well, that's what it
There's no
was.
space for conversation.
Well, last time I
I
didn't
understand,
want to leave space for conversation.
but that's why I understand originally with the original Chris podcast was you talking until you were done. It's growing. It has to be different. It has to have extra levels and layers and
This
onions and ogres.
and onions. Yeah, I would say the same to you. It's growing. Has to be different. Has to
Yeah, so it can't
be
only be half an
polite,
hour.
follow the rules. All
I
right.
just don't know how to be polite.
You'll learn. We just got to
Well,
try bit by bit. Make sure to follow CU3 Scott on all social media, my website, drawingmylifeaway.com. Anything else? Thank you
I
for.
don't think we're ever going to get around to talking about Of Mice and Men.
Oh, yeah. Are you up to 21 pages?
I read it all of like
You
3 weeks ago.
finished the
Whenever
book, silenced the haters. Oh my goodness. Doubters
I
in
read it because I
shambles. All
didn't
right,
want
yeah.
people to think I was illiterate. I was like, I have to read this book in like
Well, that
a very short period of time now.
well, that's why I talked about my trick in school to get through was I never read any of the books. So how do I pass the summer reading tests? Well, we'll get there next time. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. Please, I'm begging you. Follow Sarah. Please get me on TikTok. All right. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Deuces.